Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we are looking at the inverse transformation here. That is, we're looking at dou u by dou x in terms of, eta and z last class. Now, if you look at dou u by dou z, okay, where you express x as a function of z, eta, and tau, and y as a function of z, eta, and tau. If you are able to do that, okay, then t as a function of tau. So then dou u by dou z by the same chain rule, dou u by dou x into dou x by dou z plus dou u by dou y dou z, and same way for dou u by dou eta also. Okay. Reason why it's easier is in the physical plane, z and eta take only numerical values, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's easy to find x comma y at 1 comma 2. Okay. So x at 1 comma 2 minus x at 1 comma 1 by delta y will give you dou x by, sorry, delta eta. Delta eta is 1. So just the difference between x at 1 comma 2 minus x at 1 comma 1 can give you a difference of delta x in the y direction. Sorry, the eta direction. So that will be delta x by delta eta or dou x by dou eta. So you can find those easily in the physical domain. That is why sometimes it is easier to work with the inverse transformation. Instead of finding a eta for a particular, the z for a particular x may be more difficult actually. Anyway, so here you have this equation. Left hand side is dou u by dou z and dou u by dou eta. Right hand side you consider the unknowns as dou u by dou x and dou u by dou y. Dou u by dou x and dou u by dou y are unknown. Take them out. The rest of the thing you put in a matrix. Dou x by dou z, dou y by dou z, dou x by dou eta, dou y by dou eta. So have that matrix. Okay. Now that is the determinant of that matrix, the denominator. Okay. Which is called as Jacobian. That's called as Jacobian of the inverse transformation. Okay. Inverse is just nothing but, from the y is now expressed as a function of z and eta. So now, if you solve for dou u by dou x by inverting that matrix, okay, you will get dou u by dou x is 1 by j into this term inside. Dou u by dou y is 1 by j into the term inside the square bracket. Okay. Remember that dou x by dou z is easy to calculate. Dou x by dou eta is easy to calculate. What you don't know is dou u by dou eta. So dou u by dou z. Okay. So that is the unknown, because u is an unknown. Now u is any function. You can put anything for u. In particular, you can even put z or eta. Instead of u, you put z. Dou z by dou eta will become 0. Here, dou z by dou z will become 1. It will be minus dou x by dou eta into 1 by j. That will be dou u by dou y. Similarly here, instead of, so if you substitute these z and eta, you will get this dou z by dou eta is 1 by j into dou y by dou eta. Dou eta by dou x is 1 minus 1 by j into dou y by dou z. That's what we derived just now. Then dou z by dou y is minus 1 by j into dou x by dou eta. Then dou eta by dou y is 1 by j into dou x by dou z. So remember these equations. Equations 1, which shows dou u by dou x as the right hand side, and dou u by dou y as this one, 1 to 6. What are these 3, 4, 5, 6? They just express dou z by dou x as a function of dou y by dou eta. Okay. Now for the We call this dou x by dou z, dou y by dou z as metrics of the inverse transformation. We call by that name. Now comes a very interesting part. Okay. So in the computational domain, we want to write the equations, let's say. Okay. We know that no transformation needs to be done and it has to be complicated. We were thinking of all those things last class. Okay. Now in the physical domain, the equations look like this: dou u by dou t plus dou f by dou x plus dou g by dou y is equal to 0. Long ago, we have derived a strong conservation form, correct? U is a matrix, column matrix. F and G are same way, some vectors. Something by dou x, something by dou y. You remember that, Sanjay? Sanjay, are you there? Sanjeev Krishna, are you
Sir.
there? Yeah.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Do you remember this first equation? You remember the first equation?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what is U actually? U vector or U matrix, column matrix? What is it? Rho U, rho V, rho W, and rho E. Remember?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So those denote, that is what you want to know. When you do some time stepping, what is this values the next time step? So first one is mass equation where dou rho by dou t is equal to the right hand side, something by dou x and something by dou y is equal to 0. You can write all the momentums in this momentum equation, energy, and your continuity equation in this form. If you put rho u, then the momentum equation can also be written in this form. So together, all the equations we are representing by this one equations. You remember Ramanathan? Ramanathan. Ramanathan is here or is gone to the interview? Sanjeev, you remember?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now you transform using these things, dou e by dou x, dou e by dou y. Our aim is to write these equations in the computational domain, right? These are the equations in the physical domain or physical plane. This first one. If you want to write in the computational domain, you need to know this in terms of x and y. Dou u1 by dou tau actually is put dou t. Never mind. T is equal to tau, so we don't need to worry much about that. Okay. So now, if you call u1 as, okay, they can be written again in the form dou by dou u1 of dou tau plus dou by dou z of f1 plus dou by dou eta of g1 is 0. Now u1, f1, g1 are actually functions of u, f and g. How they are transformed is, they are transformed like this. F1 is, how to derive this? You can derive this f1 and g1 using these 6 equations. See, equation 1, 2 in the bottommost. What's happening? Then you have this, the other equation, I think it is hidden. Okay. Yeah. These equations are hidden, so they don't show up here. Yeah. Now, equation 1, 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6 here. Expression of dou z by dou x, dou z by dou y, dou eta by dou x. All these things, if you substitute, you can get this equation. F1 is jf into dou z by dou x plus jg into dou z by dou y, which can also be written as f into dou y by dou eta minus g into dou x by dou eta. Okay. Because these j into dou z by dou x is dou y by dou eta and so on and so forth. Okay, so you can write F1 like this and G1 like this. That's it. You have written all the equations in the computational domain if you do that. That's all. Simple, right? If you know how it's done, it's very simple. Okay, if you have confusion, you please ask me now. Can you move forward? Are you okay with moving forward? Someone answer, please.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you. Well, now we'll look at some example. Probably, hopefully, this should reinforce the idea. We'll just take one equation and see how it looks like. Okay. This is the same slide as what we saw the last slide of the previous deck. Now we'll do something. We'll take a rectangular grid, okay, perfectly rectangular grid, and we'll actually, cluster it in the y direction only. In the y direction, let's say a flat plate is there. We are taking the top part of the domain, assuming top and bottom are symmetric. There's a flat plate, and you want to cluster the grid near the flat plate like this, okay? Because there's a boundary layer near the flat plate, so you want to cluster more points where the gradient is high and less points where the gradient is low, okay? You want to do something like this. Generate a grid which looks like this, but we are doing it using formulae. Let's see how to do that. Let's say this is the formula we are using. We are assuming that z is equal to x. Okay, no change in z. But eta is ln of 1 plus y or y plus 1. Okay. So if you take the inverse, what will happen? X is equal to z. Fine. What is y? Y is e power eta minus 1. Okay, the inverse transformation. Okay. Next step. When you find dy by d eta, this is y, dy by d eta is still e power eta. So dy is actually e power eta d eta. Okay. dy is e power eta d eta. So we just dy is actually when dy tends to 0, but we make the approximation for small delta y. dy is delta y, d eta is delta eta. So we say delta y is e power eta delta eta. Okay. So this is one example of clustering where you vary the y with eta. For example, when delta y for the eta is equal to 1 is e power 1. Delta y for e power eta is equal to 2, that is 0, 2 is actually e squared. Then after that E cube. Okay. So the difference delta y increases exponentially when you go away from the wall. So we start with simple examples, okay, just to understand the concept first. Now, hyperbolic functions such as sin h and tan h are also commonly used for clustering. What is sin h of x actually? Rashmita, you see there? We ask someone who is there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What is sin hx?
So I think e power x plus e power minus x by 2.
Then what is cos hx?
So I think I think the sign has a minus in between.
I think e power x minus e power minus x is sin hx, correct?
Yes, sir.
By 2. Whereas
Yes.
e power x plus e power minus x
Plus
by
e
2 is
cos
cos hx.
Cos
Cos
hx.
hx. So sin hx by cos hx will be tan hx. So
Right, sir.
these two functions are commonly used for clustering, just like the function you saw above. Okay.
Sir.
Now, yeah, this is how it will look like. You multiply by a scale factor or something, you will get first delta y is e, second delta is e squared, third delta is e cube, e power 4. So you see the gap increases when you move away from the wall in y. So eta is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here. Whereas y is not in the same ratio. It is e squared, e cube, e power 4. If you use this formula for clustering, one example for clustering. Now we'll go one step further and we'll see, we'll take the continuity equation. In the physical domain, how it looks like, we'll see. Then in this transformed domain, in this transformed equation, how does it look like? Okay, that will be the next step. So let me go to the next step. So in physical coordinates in 2D, your compressible flow continuity equation looks like this. Dou of rho u by dou x plus dou of rho v by dou y is 0. Okay. So we make use of the chain rule here. Same equation expressed in the computational plane. It becomes dou of rho u by dou z into dou z by dou x plus dou of rho u by dou eta into dou eta by dou x, first term. Second term becomes dou of rho v by dou z into dou z by dou y plus dou of rho v by dou eta into dou eta by dou y. This is just to give you an idea. Okay. That is, earlier we have seen that simple conversion which works for all cases. Okay. But to give you an idea, we are looking at a transformed grid and how to do it using some formula. Okay. Now we have a straightforward relationship between z and x, that is eta. X and y can be expressed as functions of z and eta. We have x is equal to z, so dou z by dou x is 1, and there is no eta term there, so dou z by dou eta, it's not okay. Dou z by dou y is 0. Okay, z is equal to x. Okay, then we have eta. What is the expression for eta? Eta is ln of y plus 1. So dou z by dou x, there is no x term there, so that is 0. Dou z by dou y will be 1 by y plus 1. Now you substitute these values in this earlier equation. Even if you use some other formula, you just need to substitute the appropriate value of dou z by dou x, dou z by dou etc. in this equation. So you get the same equation in the transformed plane, computational plane. So for this simple clustering, you get the equation as dou rho u by dou z plus 1 by y plus 1 into dou rho v by dou eta is 0. So now we can write it as y plus y is also now in the other domain. What domain? Physical domain. So instead of y, we want in terms of z and eta. So using eta is ln of y plus 1. Y plus 1 is e power eta. So we substitute e power 1 by e power eta here. So now this is perfectly in the computational domain. There is no xy term here, only z eta terms. Fantastic. You can now solve this in the computational plane using finite differences and get the answer. There's also another inverse transformation approach where you can use the inverse transformation discussed earlier. You will get the same result. That's what he is getting. That is what we have done already. Now, just to show an example, using formula, how can you cluster in two directions? We are clustering only in one direction. Suppose you say that from bottom also I want to cluster, from top also I want to cluster. So you can use this complicated formula. I don't want to go into the details. You figure out yourself. Okay. So the resulting grid will look like this. You see, look at the y-axis clustering. This is actually the flow over a backward facing step. This is a classic benchmark problem in compressible fluid flow. If you are doing a project under Sri Krishnan sir, he has already done several projects in this. Anyone doing the same thing, or suppose you may have a different project now. If you ask him, he will show you the grids which are used. But there you can use this kind of clustering. So here you have to cluster near the walls. So there is clustering near this wall and this wall. And the clustering near this wall is not so critical, but you have to capture the extent of separation bubble after the wall. That is why it's clustered here. It is just to show you. This grid is just to illustrate some things to you. You see here there is clustering in two places, one and bottom. Okay. And away from this point, there's a release in clustering. When you reach here, there's a more clustering is there. Here on the top, there is clustering only in one direction, right? So this is a free surface, hopefully. So there is no clustering there. So in the x-axis also there's a clustering. When you combine these two, you get a grid like this. This is used by one reference, right? Sullins, Anderson, and Drummond. So used to solve supersonic viscous flow. So such type of grids which you generate using simple algebraic formula are known as algebraic grid. Okay. There are some advantages and disadvantages to algebraic grids. The advantage is that it's very efficient to generate. Quickly you can generate the grid. As we will see shortly, other types of grid generation will take a long time, a lot more time. Okay. Then ease of implementation. You can quickly implement this. Disadvantage is that there is no guarantee that the method will be successful. For very curved boundaries, you may get some garbage. Like, the grid lines may go outside the domain, or grid lines may, intersect in some, cross each other and create confusion. Okay, this is what is shown in the leftmost figure. Your grid lines are very skewed. Somebody has tried to generate using algebraic grid. You see, the bottom, the grid lines are extremely skewed. This skewness should be minimized in any grid. If this is extremely skewed, it will introduce more numerical errors. A good grid will look like, both these curves are almost orthogonal to each other at every point. Then your numerical error generation will be minimized. On the top also there is skewed. I think here they are probably even crossing over. So this is a problem he's talking about. So don't use it for complex geometries like this, or if you use it, you can break down to smaller geometry and then join them intelligently. Whereas on the right hand side, you have a very straightforward looking grid, a straight line here, probably one slanting line here, but all the points at this, see there's a sudden change in gradient at this point. The value of 0.5 is given there, x 0.5. When you progress in the y direction, okay, even the point next to that has a sharp gradient. Now this gradient is there only in the grid, it is not there in the flow field. The flow doesn't have a step there, but the algorithm will think that there is something there and may generate some spurious numerical error due to such sharp corners. So another thing to avoid when generating grid is avoiding such sharp corners wherever possible. Sometimes the geometry may be having sharp corners. If so, then preserve it. But otherwise, avoid these sharp corners and avoid this highly skewed grids. You will get a nice looking grid if you do these two things. This is a check for you to see whether your grid is good or not. So, another problem, the last one, is the propagation of singularities from the boundary. If the boundary has an interior corner, the corner will be seen in the interior domain, making it difficult to generate smooth grids. Like you don't want the sharpness to be in the interior points, they should be smooth. Now this will not be generated using a algebraic grid, as you can see from this figure. These are the main problems with algebraic grids, but the plus point is they are very easy to generate and even implement. You can use formula like that to transform. The governing equation transformation is using formula. If you use some other technique, you may have to evaluate this dou z by dou x, dou z by dou y, dou eta by dou x, dou eta by dou y. You may have to evaluate it numerically at every point. So at every point, you numerically evaluate and substitute in this equation when you solve this, which becomes more complicated, but it's easier, like what you have seen here. Very easy transformation if you have straight formulas like that. So that is the advantage of algebraic grid. Then disadvantage are these two things. Okay. Now something called boundary fitted coordinate system, which means that the coordinates are in the boundary. X and Y actually form a boundary here. Okay. So the name explains. I don't want to go into too much detail here. This is again algebraic generated grid, not algebraical. You can use even simple formula to do it. So here it is easy to see the physical plane and the computational plane here, because it's just a very straightforward transformation. You see the point D and F on the right hand side, E and G on the left hand side, D and F on the left hand side, E and G on the right hand side, A, B, C are in the middle. Now here the transform plane, you can see the corresponding point. D has moved up because here only the number counts, the Z eta plane, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. EZ direction, eta direction also 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all. They move as like your indices are your Z and eta. So it looks like this in the computational plane. So this is very easy to understand transformation. We saw this O grid or an airfoil. Well, the grid which we saw earlier is known as O grid because it resembles the English letter O. Okay. We also have, C grids, which are famous, looks like letter C. Then we have H grids, which looks like letter H. Unfortunately, we don't have grids for every English alphabet. Okay. So that's about it. Now look at this grid. We have seen this earlier, just to illustrate it once more. Look out for gamma 1. Yeah, gamma 1 is here. This is one more way of splitting up the, opening up the grid, which means that transforming it from x, y to z eta. Let's say a trailing edge P and R are there. On the body, A, C, E, G are there. So this boundary we call as gamma 1, and outer boundary, which is the outermost O, we call it as gamma 2. Then you make a cut, okay, like a tailor. You just make a cut from here on the cloth and proceed until the trailing edge. And then you assume it's a void here, you just open it up. Then this edge of your cloth is gamma 4, the other edge is gamma 3. So in the computational domain, how do they look like? The gamma 1 is whole solid wall from R to P, with R and P denoting the same point actually, physically. Physically, R and P are the same point. We just say that P is on the upper surface, R on the lower surface. Essentially, they should be the same point. Then we say gamma 4 and gamma 3. Look at these small dotted lines here. Gamma 4 is here, gamma 3 is here. So, this gamma 4 and gamma 3 are actually the same boundary. In other words, if you assume something here and proceed and get something here, these two should be the same, gamma 3 and gamma 4. Otherwise, you have to update and come back and say that, hey, my value here is same as the value here. Because physically, they are the same points. They have the same points here. You are just making a cut and separating them. This Q and S, you see, they are the same points. Because you are cutting, they are looking like reference point. Q is here and S is here. Imagine you can just wrap it up, like a cylinder. You can cut this domain and just bring one edge towards the other. The properties will be like that. So you should always correlate the physical boundary with the computational boundary. Only then can you implement the boundary conditions correctly. Okay. Now eta is varying here. We already seen an equivalent of this, a simpler equivalent earlier. Gamma 2 is top here, so which is the outermost infinity boundary, we can say, roughly. This is how the computational plane looks like. All these points, S, B, D, F, H, you lie on the outer boundary, you see here. See Q, H, F, D, B, S, etc. lie in the outermost plane. The point A lies in the interior. A lies in the interior here also. Okay. So this is O grid, opening up an O grid. Now we'll go to another type of grid generation. Meanwhile, any doubts so far?
Sir,
Ah,
the O grid in the physical plane, can you
okay.
show that, sir?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We cut the line from P and R to Q, sir. So,
No, from Q and R to P, let's say.
okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Q from
Then-
Q to R. Q to P and S to R.
Okay.
From
sir.
outer you cut to the inner. Imagine there is a void inside, you're opening it up.
Yes, sir. But we see two separate points only on the outer boundary layers. Outer
They are
boundary.
they were the same. After cutting, they have separated.
Yes, but if you look at the line just inside of the outer boundary, there is no cutting, sir.
Yeah, you just forgot, but you know the intention. You're doing
Okay, sir.
exactly what I told you.
Okay, okay, sir.
By right, you should have rubbed off those internal lines also. Okay, it's forgotten. That's it.
Okay, sir.
This is O grid. Okay. Now we'll look at algebraic grid, elliptic grid. Okay, we have seen algebraic grid. You can actually use an algebraic grid as a starting point to generate better grids. Okay. Let's say we have an initial algebraic grid and we don't want that skewness and we don't want that, sharp corners inside the boundary, inside the domain. Okay. So we have a method called elliptic grid generation actually. Using this, you can generate very smooth grids which are almost orthogonal to each other. The z and eta lines are almost orthogonal to each other in the physical plane. So that actually is a good grid. Okay. So we take that initial algebraic grid, which may have some problems. Then we smooth the internal points of the grid by iteratively solving the Laplace equation. We want those z and eta to solve Laplace equation. Earlier we are using phi, correct? Dou squared phi by dou x squared plus dou squared phi by dou y squared is 0. We use that for the fluid dynamic equation. We simplified that as an incompressible, irrotational, steady two-dimensional flow. Can be called potential flow. For the potential itself, you may have this one. But here we are using the same equations for a different purpose. So the potential, you have scalar functions z and eta. Now that z and eta are not defined analytically. Like, sometimes it's difficult to analytically. For example, step function, how do you define? To the left of this x is equal to 2, y is equal to 1. To the right of that y is equal to 2, y is equal to 2 plus 3x. So it will be a step function, then a straight line after that. There may be a discontinuity. So you can't sometimes represent it by a single function. Imagine a function defined by many such steps. You have to define it within various intervals. For every interval, if it changes from 0 to 1, it has 1, 1 to 2, it has some other value, 2 to 3, it has some other value. You directly put the value there instead of, telling the function. If you do that, it becomes a numerical problem. So you define y as a function of x only numerically in that case. For x is equal to 1, y is equal to so much. For x is equal to 2, y is equal to 3. X is equal to 4, y is equal to 10. X is equal to 5, y is equal to 7. So you have to define for every point. Then you are describing that function numerically. There is no explicit analytical function to define analytical relations between y and x. Y and x are related, but difficult to get an analytical function. But they have a relationship in terms of the second derivative as shown. Okay, so many functions may satisfy this. That is dou squared z by dou x squared plus dou squared z by dou y squared is equal to 0 is one equation. Now we impose the condition that eta also should satisfy the same condition. dou squared z by dou squared eta by dou x squared plus dou squared eta by dou y squared is 0. Now, if you look at this, you can imagine, right? Phi and psi. What is phi? Potential, velocity potential. What is psi? Psi is stream function. They are also like this. Phi and psi are always orthogonal to each other. That is exactly what you are trying to imitate or mimic here. Z and eta are also orthogonal to each other at every point. So if you solve these two appropriately, you will get a function which is in which the grids are orthogonal to each other, the grid points. Okay, if you solve it with zero error, which is not possible, so they are as orthogonal as possible to each other. Now, when you do this, the boundary points are fixed. So this kind of method is known as elliptic grid generation. Okay. Note that the boundary points are fixed and do not change. You fix the points you want on the boundary, top boundary, bottom boundary, left boundary and right boundary for rectangular domain. Now these points we use as boundary conditions for solving the Laplace equations. So this grid gives a smoother grid with less artifacts in the interior. Okay, interior, and when you solve the governing equations using this grid, you will get very less numerical error. That is the advantage of elliptic grids. Okay, we'll stop here today. We'll continue next class, whenever that may be. Monday, first hour is, what is first hour? Aero design, no?
Yes, sir.
Then fourth hour is CFT, right?
Yes, sir.
So first hour I may or may not come. Most probably I may be late on that day, Monday. So first hour we'll have postpone, have on Saturday or something like that. We won't have on Monday, first hour.
Okay, sir. No issue.
But by fourth hour, I'll be there in office. We'll have the fourth hour for CFT.
Okay. Right.
Okay, yeah. So you can sleep a little bit longer on Monday morning. Okay. So I'll take attendance. Are you following, all of you? Because I don't have questions. I implicitly, faithfully